Hello everyone! This is the second time I start recording because I failed to record the whole screen. So yeah, this is my first video and I am Drumboy, but my real name is Rasmus and I'm from Sweden, so that's why I have kind of an ugly accent. So excuse me for that. Today I want to show you how I created a whole song by only using one MEOW sample. And this MEOW sample comes directly from my cat, and I think I actually recorded it on my iPhone. Yeah, and then I imported it into Ableton and used it to create this entire song. And it's a couple of tricks I want to show you. They are not really secret tricks, but I used them so it made it easier for me to create sounds from one sample. And first, before we go into anything about the sound design, I want to show you what I did absolutely first to get everything down right. So yeah, this is a sampler you can find in Ableton, and in this sampler I put the whole MEOW sample, and it sounds like this. So what I did here was that I looked around for some good looking sound waves, and then I came across this piece of gold because I thought that this looks a lot like a saw wave. And then I thought to myself, wait, I may just loop that. So I looped that and it sounds like this. Beautiful. And there's a little trick you can use. So this is a normal audio track. And when you input this channel into external input, you can see it 102, 102. You can resample it to an audio file, basically bounce it down. So when I press record, it will do like that. And now we have this. This saw wave very many times. Yeah, cool. So yeah, now I basically have extracted the saw wave from the MEOW sample. The same goes for the sine wave you can see here. I don't really know which grain I'd used for that, but maybe I'd used this one because this looks a lot like a sine wave to me. So I resampled that, and then I took another here. I don't really know, I thought it sounds a lot like a square wave. So yeah, this is like the core of the song, and all of these were extracted from the original sample. This made it much more easier to get clean sounds when I then jumped into the sound design. So yeah, I think I covered everything here. I need to go. No, I forgot one thing. As you can see, the end of the sample is very quiet. And I find when you record with a bad microphone, such the mic from an iPhone, it almost sounds a bit like white noise when it's not recording anything, but it's still recording. So I'd use this to my advance. So this here is a granulator. It's like a sample, but it's a bit more random, I would say. So it's here I put the tail of the MEOW sample in here. And then I change some settings on the granulator. So it sounds a bit random. you can see it sprays everywhere, which I feel like it's what creates the white noise, because if it's too like repetitive sounding, it's not really that appealing as white noise. So I put it in the granulator and it sounds like this. And then I just bounce it down here. And this is the audio file I then use to create hi-hats and effects, etc. So this is the kick. I created it in Serum by using only the sounds from the cat again. So this was actually the sine wave here comes from this sine wave that I extracted from the cat sample. Yeah, so this kick comes from the MEOW sample. I imported the sine wave into Serum. I also extracted white noise, as I said. I created the white noise from the tail of the sample, put some bend on it, and changed the wavetable so it has some movement. And I control that by using LFO1. Then for the pitch, I used LFO2, so it has like an attack. And I made the envelope very short. A bit of effects on. Some EQing. And that's basically it. I then bounce it down. So we have this. So it sounds a bit different from when it's not bounced down, because I now have some more effects on. So this is what it sounds without the effects. I did some EQing. Not much different there, but then this is what makes the difference. It sounds a bit ugly, but it really stands out in the mix. Some saturation. Without it, it sounds like this. So the saturation basically gives it more high-end, I think. And I also put Serum effects on with a comps filter, actually. As you can hear, it rounds up the kick perfectly, at least what I think, and a limiter on so it doesn't peak. So yeah, that's basically the kick, and the snare, I think, is I did the same there. I don't really know if I have the. I think I may have deleted the version, the Serum version of the snare, but it's basically the same principle. I import the waveforms into Serum and use pitch envelope to create a snare sounding snare. So without the effects, the snare sounded like this. It sounds, I think it sounds like a Game Boy snare or something like that. So I had to put a lot of effects on. So with the effects, it sounds like this. It has a lot more, it feels like it sits more in the mix. And I would say it peaks a little bit more in the high end. So that's the snare, and if you go down to the hi-hats. So this is what I was talking about earlier, how I extracted the tail of the sample, which sounded like white noise. I used it for this. So I put the white noise sample from the end of the MEOW sample into a sampler here. So it basically sounds like this. But then I took down the sustain and also made it very short here, so it sounds like basically a hi-hat. I had a lot of effects on. Without the effects, it sounds like this. Very subtle and quiet, but the effects just puts it up. Yeah, so that's like the core of the drums. I have a lot more going on here. I made a clap in Serum too, from the original samples, of course. And I think I have it here actually, so it sounds like this. So I imported the bounced down version of the end of the cat sample, put it in here, and then just automated it basically. And then the processing here is essential for the sound. So that just helps fill out the snare sound basically. So together it sounds like this. It made the whole impact of the snare sound a lot more tight, at least what I think. This, I don't really know what it is, but I came up with it and it sounds cool, I think. So what that actually is just one snare, but I think I bounced it down with some delay on, so it may have sounded like this. And then I resample it here, and as you can see, it's doing some delay things here, very cool. And when you automate delay in Ableton, or anything actually, you can put it to re-pitch, so when you change the rate of the delay, it actually changes the pitch, so that's what's going on here. You can hear that it goes higher in the pitch, or what you say. So yeah. And then I put more effects on, and even more delay on, and then it sounds like this. I don't know, it has a floomy vibe to it, and it almost sounds like a broken guitar to me. But it really helped set the tone in the beginning, I think. I also created some toms. They are here, actually. So how I created the toms, I again imported the extracted sound waves from the original MEOW sample with the extracted white noise from the end of from the tail of the MEOW sample, and I just played around with it basically with some effects, a lot of automation, a lot of effects down here, and it sounds like this. I bounce it down, so it sounds like this. Oh, that's a lot of delay on. Maybe we can listen to it here. Yeah, it's easier to control when you bounce it down, at least I think. So yeah, I think we have covered all the drums now. Should go over to the synth section. The synths and the basses. The synths and the basses basically all rely on this sample that I extracted from the original sample. Yeah, I think I did show you that earlier, how we managed to do that. So I imported the sample to Serum. I can show you. You just do like this, and it shows up. And as you can see, it looks like a lot like a saw wave, maybe a little broken saw wave, but it still sounds like a saw wave. So it begins like this. And I have a lot of effects on, as you can see. I also have a deep greasy bass here. which is basically built on the same principle. I import the saw waves I extracted from the MEOW sample, and the white noise I created from the tail of the MEOW sample. So yeah, that's the beginning of the song. I then add a little higher bass. And the secret here is the comp filter. Oh. So when the drop hits, we get a lot of future bassy vibes here. So yeah, that's basically what I showed you earlier. I just imported the broken saw waves into Serum, and I have two synths actually. This one plays the higher frequencies, and this plays the lower. And I combine that with the other basses here. Let me show you. So that's again the same principle. I import the extracted sample from the MEOW sample. And I have another one here. So those two basses, together with the two synth tracks, it sounds like this. To me it sounds very full. And to get the low end right, I added a sub bass I created. 808, you may want to call it. And I just imported the... where is it? I think it was... yeah, this one. Yeah, so... yeah, I showed you earlier how I do these things. I found a cool looking sine looking wave from the original MEOW sample, and I just imported it here, and it shows up. So basically it sounds like this. So everything together sounds like this. Yeah. So I think that's all the synth parts. Okay, the melody. It's actually quite simple. So I started by importing the MEOW sample into a sampler again here, and I just took this part. So you may be, if you heard the original song, you may be familiar with the melody, but it sounds like this. So yeah, so the effects here and post-processing is actually everything for the sound, because without the post-processing here, the MEOW sample sound would sound like this. So by doing some post-processing, I added the short reverb, OTT, compressor, some delay, some EQing, some stereo imager. This is actually a free plugin. It's very cool, I think. Filter for some automation and some auto pan, so it sounds a bit more stereo. So yeah, it sounds like this then. A bit dreamy sounding. I like it. So going into the drop, it's basically the same lead, but with less more dreamy. It is less more dreamy sounding, with it a lot less reverb, more saturation, and I think I also added yeah, that's basically it. And what you can see I did here was that I duplicated the MIDI notes. So without the duplication, it sounds like this. But when I add, this MIDI melody is 2 octaves higher, and it's also set a bit behind, which gives it this natural feeling to it. And also, yeah, I think it sounds cool. So yeah, going into the second part of the drop, I layer the melody with this. Which sounds like a dragspel, it's called in Swedish. I think it's called accordion. Yeah, and that's basically saw waves, again, from the MEOW sample, extracted from the MEOW sample. But what really gives this sound is the reverb filter. So without it, it just sounds like standard solid. But with the reverb filter and the key track filter on, it sounds like this. So that combined with the main lead, it sounds like this. Yeah, so that's basically it for the drop and all the melodies, I think. The break after the first drop is basically the same principle, melody-wise. A lot of reverb, the MEOW sample sounds a lot dreamy. So yeah, then we're building here. And yeah, of course we have the epic yam, MEOW. So this is this also between the melodies I added the MEOW, the full MEOW sample. So it sounds like this. So what I did here. Oh, sorry. So what I did here was that I actually took the same sample and put it 20 to right and 20 to left. And then you see here it's on 0 transpose, and here it's on 1 transpose, which made it sound a bit detuned and a lot more full. A bit intimidating too, at least I feel like. And then I also added some so the last part I want to talk about is the effects section, which I think is very important for EDM or electronic song in general. So I may as well start by explaining this. So that's what's actually start of the song. Sets the tone for the song, I think. And what I did was that I actually just resampled this serum I created. And again, I imported the extracted saw waves from the MEOW sample. And it sounds like this. So that's a riser, and I just resample it down here. Yeah, like that, and then I put it here and reversed it so it sounds like it's dropping. And I don't know, then we have this thing, I don't really know what it is. Oh yeah, so that's again the tail of the MEOW sample, which sounds like white noise if you turn it up. And the thing I did here, I just experimented with it. I did actually put a gate on it, so without a gate it sounds like this. But with a gate, it gives us this like smattery vibe to it. I just put the threshold so it's barely touching it here. So it sounds like this in context. So yeah, let me see what this is. Yeah, so this is like the white noise is just actually this granulator. No, sorry, this white noise I extracted from the sample, which I showed you earlier how I did it. And I just reversed it, I think, and put some yeah, curviness to it. So it gives it this rising effect. Yeah, and this is also something I created. I think I put let me see here if I can find it. Where is it? I know it is. Yeah, there. Yeah, so this is something, I don't really know what I would call it. But that's basically the snare I created from the MEOW sample, and I put it in a granulator, and then I bounced it down here and pitched it up, I think. So it's a very weird rising effect sounding like thing. And it sounds like this. So in context, it would add a little bit of atmosphere to the song and sound like this. Oh, sorry. So yeah, I think that's basically the whole song. This is my first video, so it was quite an experience to try to make one. And since I am not really speaking English very much, I hope at least you can understand some things I say. And if you have any questions, please leave them below. I would love to answer every single one of them. And please, if you want to, you may subscribe. And yeah, please tell me if you enjoyed it, and if you want more videos, please tell me. And also if you have any advice on recording or how I should talk about things in other ways or something like that, please tell me. But yeah, it was really fun, and I hope you enjoyed the song. See you next time!